Hello there everyone and welcome to the channel. I am Jaja Links and this is the inaugural video for the Jaja Links channel. So this is the beginning of a City Skylines series that I'm doing for a town called Goingsnake. This is going to be a town set in the Appalachian Mountains in western North Carolina. Goingsnake is a Native American name. The reasoning for me giving that I'm going to go over in the next episode. But for this episode, I'm calling it episode 0 because I'm looking at it kind of as a prequel. I'm just going to be building the map that I'm going to be playing on in this episode, so there's no actual city building here. It is just going to be me putting together the map that we're going to play on. So if you can see now, I'm just kind of poking around on Google Maps and terrain.party, just kind of looking around for the area that I'm going to use for this map. If you're unfamiliar, terrain.party is a website that basically allows you to take satellite scans and map out the geography of an area in a format that you can then send over to City Skylines. So that's what I'm kind of doing. I'm just looking around the mountains, trying to find a place that really checks all the boxes that I was looking for. I really wanted something that had a river running through it, had a little bit of flat land to build on, but also had some really nice, tall, tricky to build on mountains. So that's kind of what is going on here. I grab a couple different places: Blowing Rock, Boone, Marshall, Hot Springs, Bryson City, just a bunch of little North Carolina mountain towns to kind of play around with and load up into City Skylines to see how much I liked them. And then I ended up just kind of grabbing the winner, and that was the map. So here I'm just kind of organizing everything to go ahead and send over, and then we're gonna load it all up in City Skylines. So now I'm in the map builder, and I apologize for the wonky colors here. It's really dark when I run the map editor. I use Ultimate Eye Candy to sort of spruce up the lighting and stuff, and for whatever reason, when I'm not using Ultimate Eye Candy, which to my knowledge I can't while I'm in the map editor, when I'm not using it, it gets really dark and just looks pretty bad, to be honest. So this prequel episode, the quality's not exactly how I want it to be, but I don't know, it's good enough, whatever. And later on, I'll have some cinematics of the finished product, and I loaded it up in the regular old play mode, sandbox mode, whatever you call it. I loaded it up in that one for the cinematics, so you can see what it's actually going to look like moving forward. But yeah, just for this one video, the graphics are a little bit dark. So one tricky thing with trying to do an Appalachian Mountains build is the fact that if you've seen the Appalachian Mountains, there's a lot of trees, like inch to inch to inch. They are 100% covered in trees for the most part. And that's kind of a challenge for City Skylines because of processing abilities and the computer being able to keep up, and also there's a 250,000 tree limit. So it was a little bit of a struggle trying to figure out how exactly I wanted to handle that. I did actually play with doing like really dense coverage on one mountain just to see how it looked, and it looked awesome. I really wish I could do that for the whole map, but it's not technically possible. So what I ended up doing was just kind of doing little bunches of trees like this, mostly in the valleys, just to kind of try to get some color into the map. I do want this to be sort of taking place in the fall. The Appalachians are really pretty when all the leaves are changing, and I wanted to mimic that as best as I could. I wish I could do a little bit more with the trees, but it sort of is what it is. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on here. And I spend quite a while doing this. There's a lot of ground to cover, and I pretty much wanted the trees to be just about everywhere. I did leave, especially in the lower lying areas and then along the edges of the maps, I left it a little bit more barren, but I tried to keep the mountains pretty well covered. And then I did some more sort of pine forests a little bit lower. I figured I'd have a nice mix of the evergreens and the trees that are changing colors. And of course, you got to have your highway connection. One cool thing about using terrain.party is, since it's just a scan of the actual earth, the towns, whatever, obviously it's not going to pick up the roads, but it does pick up the landscaping that facilitates the roads. So if you have a road through the mountains, then the flat spot that the road goes across is going to kind of make its way into your map. And I think that's what I'm following here. There was this nice little line that sort of cut its way through a pretty good sized chunk of this map. And I really just followed that for this highway connection here. So this is our one connection to the outside world on this map. I am a little curious to see, when we get a little bit higher in population, how well this holds up. I'm a little bit worried that we're going to run into some traffic issues, because I wanted to do just a little 2-lane highway, because I'm picturing this as a pretty small town, small city, a big town maybe. But I didn't want like some crazy huge interstate running through it. I just wanted a little mountain road. I'm almost imagining it as like the Blue Ridge Parkway or something. So we'll see. I'm going to do the best I can with the traffic, but I'm a little curious to see how that all works out. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was much else I wanted to say about that. I'm kind of just doing the audio for this in one take because I'm not super interested in spending a ton of time going back through and editing the commentary and making it perfect. Kind of want to just let it be a little more natural. So, all right, this is something. Figuring out this river about drove me insane. So I was running into this issue where normally what I do with rivers, and when I say normally, I've built like one other map before, so this is what I did on that map. But normally what I do with rivers that one other time is just raise the sea level so it fills the riverbed. Pretty quick and dirty way of doing it, and it worked that one time, but I guess with this being a mountain river and there being a more significant elevation change, that did not work here. What I was running into was if I raised the sea level, it wouldn't fill the whole river. And you could kind of see it there. It's filling the bottom of the river, but not the top. So if I wanted to get it all the way to the top, I had to raise it way up, and then the bottom of the river was basically just lakes, and I want it to be a river. I don't want it to be lakes. So that didn't work. And then the second thing I tried was just putting water spawners at the top of the river and having them flow down to the bottom of the river and filling the whole thing up that way. Well, I guess the water evaporates in this game because the water didn't make it all the way down to the end. It was just kind of stopping. And I guess the solution to that would have been to make them spawn more water, but I didn't want to do that because then I run into the same problem again where I've got lakes at the top and it's starting to get thin on the bottom. So I ended up kind of doing a combination of the two. I did the sea level so that it filled about half of it, and then I spawned enough water up at the top to be able to kind of have it meet sea level in the middle. And then I also had to do some terraforming and dig out a hole deep enough to have the water go through, or actually I guess to have sea level fill up. So that's how I handled that. That was kind of a pain. I spent a really long time tinkering with that, and it's still not super realistic because it kind of screws up the water flow, I think. It just kind of stops in the middle. It's flowing, and then it stops. And it actually stops right here where I'm working on. You've got this like rapid just going into a lake, but the lake is really just the standing ocean water. But whatever. It actually looks pretty cool. I like the way that rapid worked out. Anyway, so what I'm doing now is I didn't want to go too crazy with the details throughout this whole map, just because I don't know how much I'm going to end up changing ultimately with where I'm building, and I could very well just delete a bunch of this stuff along the rivers. But what I did want to do was kind of put together a handful of different little vignettes, sort of just more detailed areas to give you a little something to look at, something to put in the cinematics at the end, just to give this build a little bit more personality, since it was a really broad build where I was mostly just throwing trees all over the place. I wanted to have a couple more detailed spots, so that's what I'm doing here, and I'm actually really happy with how some of these came out. I love the way that those fall trees look with the pines, and then this texture pack I've got is awesome. So yeah, I was happy with it. And then one other thing worth mentioning with this, another hurdle that I was going through, was I didn't know this, but I guess you're not supposed to place props when you're in map build mode. And apparently these vegetation pieces that I'm putting down right now are props. And I don't know if this is an issue that I have just with some of the mods I've got, or if this is actually a game issue, but every single prop that I put down, which was just a handful of dead trees, a bunch of those vegetation pieces, and then I put some highway barriers in, which I'm not even going to show because I ended up having to delete them. But anyway, all of the props I put in glitched out when I actually loaded up the map to play on. They did this really weird thing where they looked okay from a distance, but then when you zoomed in on them, they just completely disappeared. And if you kind of turned the camera around and tried looking at them from different angles, they would sort of pop back in and out, but they were mostly gone. So that was a pain, and I figured I would just delete them, and then I don't know what the plan would be after that, but that was step one. So I tried deleting them, and they were glitched out in terms of being able to select and delete them also. You couldn't bulldoze them. They were just there staring me in the eyes, mocking me, disappearing and reappearing, and I couldn't select them with the bulldozer. I couldn't select them with move it. So it was this whole big thing. I didn't really know what to do about it. I tried turning some mods off, playing with some different stuff, and nothing fixed it. And what I ultimately figured out, I think, is that it's some sort of issue with just putting them in the map editor and then loading them up as a sandbox game that was causing it. So I went back to the map editor. They worked fine there. I ended up deleting all of these little shrubs that I put down, and then resaving the map. So all of those shrubs, resaving the map, reloading it, and then I just put them back in sandbox mode. So they're there, but they were a huge pain. But that being said, I do like the way they look, so I suppose it was worth it. And now what I'm doing here, like I said, I didn't want to go too terribly crazy with placing hundreds of thousands of trees all over the map just to keep my frame rate somewhat decent, and I just didn't think it was going to be a realistic option. But what I did want to do was line the river with a lot of trees and foliage and bushes and stuff, just because that's kind of how things normally are. Your rivers have a lot of vegetation growing around them, so I wanted to mimic that, and I was pretty happy with the way it came out. I thought the river looked really nice. Here I'm just doing like a little beach area on the island. I used decals there, but I found the sand brush thing after, so I ended up deleting those and using that. I don't think I do it on camera though, but it basically looks the same. So yeah, that island was really cool. I'm happy with the way that came out. And then a funny thing, I found this forest brush mod, like pretty much right at the tail end of working on this map. And it's so cool because you can kind of sort out what trees are going to be in it and mix and match. So I set it up so I had the pencil pine, the regular pine, and these 2 fall trees that I was using a bunch. And I had been doing each one individually as their own individual brush, which, I mean, that worked fine. It didn't take that much longer, but I really like that forest brush tool. That's awesome, and hopefully I find some other uses for that beyond just building maps. I don't know how much I'm going to use it once I'm actually building the city, but that was cool, and it looked nice. You can set the percentages of the trees. It's good stuff. And I think this is the last piece that I really detailed on this map. This was, I guess we'll call it the bottom end of the river, where it's a little bit deeper because it's ocean. This was sort of like a weird little lake type thing that sprouted off the side of it, and I didn't really like the way that it looked on its own. It was like a river that just kind of quit trying almost. It just sort of stopped. So what I ended up doing was I widened it a little bit, and then I threw a bunch of rocks and stuff around the edge, and I'm just kind of looking at it as a lake, and I think it came out nice. I like the way the details came out. These river rocks here that I'm putting down are another one of the things that got screwed up with loading the level. I guess they're a prop instead of a rock. I don't know what the difference is between all that stuff, but yeah, those glitched out on me too when I started playing the map, so I ended up having to go in and delete those and try again. Interestingly enough though, those other more jagged river rocks that I just put down, those worked just fine, and I don't think those are vanilla. So I don't know, there's not really much rhyme or reason to it. It was kind of strange, but that's my problem, I guess. All I'm really going to show is the nice finished product. And then I'll just kind of complain about the problems as we're going through it. And yeah, this was really the last piece of this build. Now I actually forgot until I tried to save the level. But yeah, you need a train connection. That's pretty important, especially to what I'm picturing being a somewhat industrial Appalachian town. They need their train. So I like the way that this came out. I just kind of jammed it up against this little bridge here, and then I gave it its own little road, train track. I kind of carved a path through the mountain. The road sort of swerves around the mountains, but given that this is a train and you don't want it swerving too terribly much, I ended up, and I didn't keep this, I ended up sort of carving a path through the mountain. I forgot I even did that. I'm going to delete everything that I just built, and I just kind of stopped the train track like right there, just within the boundaries of what's buildable. This line is the end of the map that I'm going to be able to build on. I decided I didn't really know where I wanted the train to go exactly, so I just kind of dropped it onto the map, and that's going to be a problem for future me to figure out. So yeah, this is what I was talking about with just kind of having it cut through the mountain as opposed to swerving around it like the road did. And then I sort of smoothed it out with Move It, and I don't know, I think it came out cool. I wanted it to sort of follow the path of the road, but I didn't necessarily want it to just be right alongside the road the whole time. And also I felt like the road was a little swervier than a train track would be. Swervier. I guess that's a word. I was having a lot of trouble with the height of the road and the train track, especially when they were close to each other. It was causing a lot of weird little glitches here with the whatever that little dirt bank is that's on the side of the road. But I just kind of smoothed it out with Move It and made it look a little bit less ridiculous. It's not quite perfect, but this isn't even on the map, so this is probably the last time I'm ever going to really look at it. This is not an area that I am too terribly concerned about long term. So yeah, I just got that area nice and flat, smoothed everything out a little bit. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the train track. I did do a little bit of detailing and slapping some trees down over by the bridge where the two meet, just to create another one of them little vignettes I was talking about. Spruce things up a little bit, give it a little extra detail. And yeah, I thought maybe that would kind of help give me some direction too when I'm actually building the city. Sort of use those areas that I kind of tidied up a little bit as maybe parks or something like that. Get the creative juices flowing a little bit. So, and I did this line of trees right here. I'm not super happy with the way that came out. I don't know. I felt like the merge between the train track and the road there was a little bit on the awkward side, so I wanted to kind of, I was trying to hide that a little bit, but I don't know if that was the most elegant way of doing it. And that's probably going to be something that gets reworked a little bit once I start actually building on this map. So we'll see how that all goes. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this first episode. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I hope this video has kind of piqued your curiosity a little bit. Definitely feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed it. There's already a new episode out. I'm gonna upload the first 2 or 3 of these together. I'm building a natural gas power plant, and yeah, here's some cinematics.